What's up? I'm Mike, N2MAK.
What's up? I'm Ron, W2ELS.
We're going to get that down soon. Welcome to part two of this two-part series that Ron's helping me do on getting started in CW, because CW is one of my goals this year. I want to do a CW POTA activation in 2026, and I know that there is a lot to learn. And so Ron is the host of the 599 Signal Report podcast. Definitely go check it out. Links will be down below. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, even on YouTube. However you choose to listen and consume content, the 599 Signal Report is available, and it's a fabulous podcast. Ron, tell us a little bit about yourself real quick in the podcast.
Sure, Ron, W2ELS, and definitely it started the podcast just to get those new learners who wanted to get into CW, as well as those around CW, just to talk about the mode and get more enthusiasm and excitement for the mode that we have today.
Awesome. I've really enjoyed it. One of the things I like, and hopefully we don't ruin it with this, but no, it's been short and digestible.
Yeah,
There's definitely some longer podcasts out there, and I certainly listen to them, but it's also nice when you have some on the shorter end where they could be 5-10 minutes, and I have a short commute, as I'm sure you do too.
Absolutely.
And it's nice to just be able to, actually finish a whole episode of something on the way into work or on the way back, and not have to worry about picking up where you left off, a day or two later. Now, we have a second part of the slides. The first one, part one, I'm going to assume most viewers have seen that, but if you haven't, we talked about some of the resources that are out there. Things like Morris Mania, an app for your phone, LICW, CW Ops, some of these clubs, ways that you can learn. We all learn different, but there's a lot of resources out there. And we talked a little bit about the gear. We talked about some keys and, what to look for, what the options are, from budget friendly to borderline unobtainium keys and everything. So if you missed part one, definitely check it out. I guess you probably don't need to watch these so much in order. We just broke this up, so that it'd be a little bit more digestible.
Absolutely.
And stuff. But let's dive into the part two, which is this is going to be focused on first QSO and taking it to the airwaves.
That's right, and I think that's the most important thing we can think about for CW is that, yes, it's fine to do Morris Mania. Yes, it's fine to use the websites and the apps to learn. But what's the most important thing? Getting on the air. Get on the air and have fun. One of the first things that LICW is going to tell you is that they want you to be on the air within a few months of joining. So they typically estimate about 3 months, and their goal is to get you on the air with a 12 word per minute QSO. Okay. And that is the goal within 3 to 4 months of joining. So that gives you, as soon as you start, Mike, you got 3 or 4 months to get in there. Right. And there's a great quote from one of my LICW instructors. Shout out Stu, KM3STU. You don't get on the air. You don't get good to get on the air. You get on the air to get good. And that's the most important thing, is just to get on there, start operating, and start and enjoy the journey. And I'll be honest, until I got on the air, I was just like, it was a little dreadful. And I got to work on an hour again. I got to do that. But the fast pacedness and getting on the air, and I think this when you're in that zone of doing QSOs, it's just, there's just something different about it, right?
Yep. Definitely.
So your goal, gotta get you on the air as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if you've heard about this thing called Parks on the Air.
Is that like soda or something?
Yeah. I think both your audience and my audience are well familiar with POTA because I talk about it all the time. POTA is a classroom. It is the absolute best way, and I think it's the absolute best thing to happen to CW because it gives you a very, very structured QSO. You can be very efficient. 5-watt CW is just so good and so efficient. I mean, literally, you can you can be. I mean, I've talked to France and all over, and we're on the East Coast, of course, but all over Europe, I'm getting QSOs with 5 watts and using CW
Nice.
with simple antennas, and like I said, it's structured. You don't have that pressure of that long rag chew, because part of CW is too. When you know what's coming, you feel more relaxed copying. So okay, this is the formula. This is how we're going to do things. With the rag chew, you're almost guessing, okay, is he going to talk about his weather?
Mhm.
Is he going to talk about his antenna? Is he talking about his wife now? so,
Yep.
so all of those things are happening in a longer rag chew. But with POTA, it's very efficient. And I think we're
Yep.
going to talk a little bit about what the exchange is. So,
Okay.
Mike, the first thing you're going to do with POTA and learning POTA is I want you to learn your call sign.
Okay.
I think you got it already on your video intro.
Yeah.
But the key is learning to copy it, and then now you need to learn how to send it. So no matter what the speed is, no matter how you're hearing it, you just need to be able to, whatever is being sent, just being able to hear your call sign out of the noise. And then
Okay.
knowing how to send your call sign out of that noise, that's going to be important. So in that our typical POTA QSO, you're gonna say, you went to the POTA page, you found WTLS, he's operating at a Park 6532, and
Mm-hmm.
now I'm just out there operating, and you're just gonna you hear me call CQ, and I hit K, so I call CQ, WTLS, call POTA, POTA, K, and I'm just sitting there waiting for a call. You're gonna send your call sign, N2MAK. All right.
Okay.
And then you're going to hear me send it back to you. And you're like, whoa, okay, I'm
Yeah.
on. He sent my call sign. So now you're going to say, okay, so you need to know how to send your call sign. So you sent that.
Mm-hmm.
And now you need to know how to send 599. So you're going to send 5NN. So those 3 letters, I want you to work on being able to send 5NN. The N is actually 9. So that's a cut number
Yep.
for 9 in CW. So you send 5NN and then send your state, New York, NY, and then you can send the break, which you don't have to, but when you get a break, basically means I'm going to give it back to you. So 599, 599,
Okay.
New York, BK, and that means here, Ron, you're back on. I'm like, okay, so I'm
Okay.
going to send the break, da 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 da. So I'm taking control now, and I'm going to send you a whole bunch of stuff. If you're when you're ready to copy, you will. But at the end, I'll probably say thanks for New York, fine business, Mike, because I know it's you. So I'm gonna be saying all this stuff, and you're just gonna
Yeah.
say okay, okay, okay. And then when you hear me go, you're gonna be like, oh, okay, he's done. Or
Yep.
I'm gonna send 73, and you're gonna be like, okay, I heard 73, and then I'm gonna send dit, dit, and then you're gonna know, okay, he's done.
Yep.
So you just send dit dit. QSO's over.
Yep. I
So
remember that, and I know we mentioned this in the other one when I did a POTA activation with our buddy Vince VE6LK in Ontario, like a year and a half ago, I think it was. Um, we did a dummy load to dummy load
nice.
CW contact, and I remember the dit dit at the
That's
end.
it.
That was kind of like the it's done.
And do you know where that dit came from? It's
No,
actually there's a old song that goes, but it's
the
like
shave and a
shave and a
haircut.
haircut.
Okay,
Yeah, shave and a
okay,
haircut. Dit. That's where it comes from.
nice.
So one pro tip, I'll tell everyone is learn what question mark, how to send it and receive it. So
Okay,
question mark is your friend because basically that helps you when you didn't copy, or especially when you're the activator and you didn't copy something, sending the did it da da did it. That is
hmm
going to be your friend, or hearing the did it da da did it, because they might get N2M and then they might have a QSB, so they might say, they'll send part of your call sign and say question mark. Just send your call sign again, because it could have been QSB that took you out, or it could have been another QRM, another activator who went over top of you. So being able to hear
okay,
that question mark and then sending your call sign again, that's going to be your best friend.
definitely.
So now let's talk about hunting versus activating. The most important thing as a hunter is being able to be the one that's listening. So a lot of hunting is listening. So just like any other QSOs you do, you really want to be a listener. So you send, and then learning that flow, and then really listening to the flow of
Oh,
how that
I lost you for a
operator.
second there.
Oh, yep.
Let me try to add you back there, Ron.
Okay. All right. Am I back?
And he's back.
Oh, I'm back. Yeah. All right. Yeah, your internet went a little slow on me, but I'm here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So we can we'll start the hunting and activating thing all over.
Yeah,
All
yeah,
right.
we can do that. All right.
The
So as a
beauty of
hunt,
editing.
the beauty of editing. So hunting versus activating. So as a hunter, the most important thing you can do is listen. So it's going to be important that you listen for the flow of the contacts. How's that activator controlling the crowd? How is he really
Okay.
dealing with his pileups and being and hearing what he's sending and what others are sending? That's going to be important as a hunter. So you want to listen a lot. And a lot of some tips that I got are from Jim WB0RLJ. Jim basically has activated every day for the last 1,000 days plus
Oh my
straight.
gosh.
Can you
Wow.
imagine? And he's at the park 3 hours doing QSO. So my number with Jim, I think we're over 80 contacts at this point. A
Oh, that's fabulous.
1,000 days, and he loves it. He's a guest on the 599 Signal Report podcast, and he
Hmm.
talks about it. He talks about his journey and how he got back into ham radio and why he just loves POTA. He just loves activating. So he's there every day. So no matter what,
Nice.
as I talked about earlier, when we do our 15 minutes of practice in the evening, one of my 15 minutes is calling Jim and having a quick QSO with Jim.
Awesome.
And his strategy for dealing with the blob or the pileup is to don't zero beat the activator, go off frequency. You can use the XIT. I think that's XIT on Yaesu. I'm not sure what it is on ICOM. But basically
All right.
going a little bit off frequency and then sending your call sign there, and you're above the pileup. Jim actually records his activations, so I can go on the YouTube video and see where I called him, and I can tell because I go a little bit off frequency. I always right on top of the pileup, and he picks me out like that and just sends back. So I don't deal with the pileup. I just send first time, and he's already responding. So yeah, so just learning those
All
strategies,
right.
and you can go to his website to see a little bit more. I mean, his QRZ to see a little bit more about
Yeah.
those ticks.
So I've heard about this. You don't want to zero beat the activator. Now, is this a matter of preference or is there a strategy involved? Do you go up a little in frequency or down a little? What do you do, and what do you recommend for
Yeah,
others?
yeah, definitely a little bit of both. Sometimes it's a little bit down, sometimes it's a little bit up, but just enough so that you're still within
Okay,
his frequency range, but
gotcha.
just so that he can hear your tone above that blob. Because literally, when 20 stations are sending you CW at the same time, it's just you don't hear anything. But just going a little bit up and not zero beating him, oh, hears you
Yeah,
perfectly every time.
I'm a little nervous about that first pile up. Not
Well,
gonna lie. Not gonna lie.
don't be. I mean, you think about it. How do you deal with a pileup now? You pick a
Yeah.
number. You pick a number. You pick that last call, that last letter that someone sent you. It's the same strategy, Mike. Just a little bit. Just
Okay.
doing it through CW.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll get you through that first pileup. So the cool thing about CW is there's a lot of events and contests that you can get a part of, and I just highlighted a few of them for you today. One of the cool ones that I like to do is the K1USN Slow Speed Test. It's called, and it's perfect because you're sending less than 20 words a minute, and the
Mm.
exchange is just your name and your state. And I love that one because usually on a Friday afternoon, I'll hop on about I think it's 3 or 4 o'clock. I'll hop on right after work and just do a couple exchanges, and it gets you a reason to get on the air. Again, getting on the air, another reason to practice. That's a great opportunity. And then Sunday evenings, again, another opportunity to hop on the air and just send your call sign or hear another call sign and send your name and your state. I always catch our friend and our Elmer, Tim, WB2KAO. He and I always exchange on a SST when he gets on. So I think Tim was your first VHF contact. He's been one of
Yep.
my CW Elmers, and we go back and forth all the time on CW.
Okay. Awesome.
A couple major contests, the CQ Worldwide DX. Oh, that was a big one. That's in November. The CQ Worldwide WPX in May. And then there's one
Mhm.
going on right now called the ARRL International DX CW contest. They call it a US versus Canada versus the world, but it is really a good one. And that's happening right now. And I've been practicing
Okay.
and been in there. I got about 40 QSOs, nothing big. I do a relaxed contesting, I call it. I've talked all over Europe and South America, and I think I got the Galapagos Islands. I think there's a D expedition down there right
Oh,
now,
cool.
and literally it's stations and the exchange is 599 and power for out of the U.S. But if you're in the U.S., it's 599 in your state. And their stations pointed at the US throwing kilowatts at us. So even though our band conditions today aren't the greatest, I can stop
Mhm.
on right now and still contact Slovenia because they're throwing a kilowatt at us. And it is a fun contest.
Mm.
And if you want to get into contesting, I know you do a little VHF contesting, but CW contesting is so different, so much more relaxed, so much more, I feel like a lot less pressure.
I'm
And then,
glad that you included this slide.
yeah,
Sorry, I kind of jumped
go
in,
ahead.
but
Go ahead.
contests. I know you and I are into POTA,
Yes.
and sometimes contests get a bad rap from POTA activators because they look at it as it makes it harder to find a frequency and things
Oh,
like
yeah.
that. But I think that there's a lot of pros and benefits to contests, whether you do it really serious or you're very casual and relaxed, because these things are often very structured. So I can see
Right.
the benefit from a CW standpoint, just like POTA. You're going to have a very structured exchange. And I think it's a great way to just learn and try newer, different things.
Right.
I do the RIDI Roundup,
Hmm.
which is in January, because I know that I can find RIDI activity.
Right.
And
Right.
I go out to the POTA park and I just spin the dial and I just hunt these stations. They don't need to know that I'm doing POTA or
Right.
whatever, but that's my thing. And I get, a couple dozen RIDI contacts, and it's fun, and it's a good way to try different modes. I do the AM rally that just happened a couple
Right.
weeks ago. It's a great way to try AM and actually make some contacts using ancient modulation, as they say for AM.
Right. Hi, hi.
But but no, I think contests can be a really good way to learn. So yeah, so I jumped in the slide.
Right, right, right. Oh, you went on a little bit, Mike. Are you still with me?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say one of the another one last point is you mentioned it, being able to sit in your POTA park and actually do a contest. So I did the New
Hmm.
York State QSO party from a POTA park. I just sat in the park and just did CW, and did the contest. And because the parks and the exchange, there's really technically no structure, so you can just do your regular exchange and then log it as a New York State QSO party, maybe throwing in
Hmm.
your county. I think, yeah, you got to do your county with New York State QSO, and then others who come back with you, they might come back with their county or your state. And I think I did it as a rookie. I'm still seeing if I ranked anything, but definitely did as a rookie for CW,
Okay,
and hoping to hope I did well at that contest.
nice.
Yeah. So the last thing I want to talk about is joining community. So there's the CW community. I'm actually wearing my SKCC shirt, the Straight
Okay.
Key Century Club. They are focused on the straight key, the bug, and the cootie, which are traditional manual modes of sending or manual keys. They have great events called like the Straight Key Month, which was last month. That month was a blast. I was actually my shirt is from being an operator. I was the straight key month
Okay.
operator for Region 2. The goal of that month is really to get all the regions. So there'll be KY3, stroke 1, stroke 2, stroke 3, all the way to 9, 0. And then, of course, you can get in Hawaii and Alaska for your bonuses. So I did a clean sweep for straight key month, as well as being an operator. And then it's just a blast. So it was a great, great month. And I didn't, I joined Street SKCC a while ago, but really got into it last month, and I'm hooked. And there's also rankings you can get with SKCC.
Hmm.
So right now I'm a T, which is a Tribune.
Okay.
After 100 QSOs, you get what they call your century or centurion. So you get 100 QSOs, you get your C letter, you're like, yeah. And then you keep going and you get your T. And then the ultimate, of course, is to get your senator, which is your S. And yeah, it is a blast by just by learning and getting those QSOs. They also have weekend contests. So it's weekend sprint.
I
They
see.
have a weekday sprint, Europe sprint, so many other things. And they have a sked page. So there's always someone to talk to. Because as we talked about, being able to find QSOs is tough sometimes, but doing it through SKCC, there's always options, and it's fun. It's just a lot of fun.
Great.
And now here's a club that I'm aspiring to. It's called the CW Ops. We talked about the CW Ops Academy, but it's
Yeah.
actually an operating club. And the club decided to form the academy to get other CW operators involved. In order to be part of the CW Ops as a club member, you need to be able to send 25 and receive 25 words per minute for membership. And you have to be nominated, and you have to have a couple of nominations with you. And it's aspirational for me right now. I feel like I'm getting there, but I definitely need to be able to get my speed up a little bit more to be
Okay.
able to send at 25 and receive at 25 words per minute. They also do what they call the CWTs, or the CW tests. Those are weekly on Wednesdays. They do it 3 times a day for Wednesdays. And being able to send and receive you exchange your number, and then if you're in the academy, you exchange that you're in the academy. It's a lot of fun, and I've participated. Whew, they go fast because they're sending 25 a minute. So yeah, that's the
Great.
community aspect of it. And I think we got one more. Oh, final takeaways. Are
Yes.
you ready for them, Mike?
Yep. I'm ready.
All right.
Send it.
So your final takeaways. You're going to get on the air as soon as possible. Soon as possible. You want to start and stick to that formula for POTA exchange. You want to be able to know what's being sent, what's being received. You want to, as a hunter, you want to listen, and listen more. And then take some of the tips from Jim, WB0RLJ, who's going to help you navigate through that pileup. The clubs you want to join, we talked about joining LICW, but you also want to join SKCC. Oh, I didn't mention SKC is free to join. There's a small
Okay.
cost for LICW, but it's really affordable.
Yeah.
I think we're talking $90 for a lifetime membership. So
I've heard something like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yep,
But
$30 a year, and then $90 for a lifetime. And then technically, if you do the first year and you do the lifetime, you just pay another 60. So it's flexible too.
yeah.
So yeah, LICW and SKCC, an aspirational club for all of us, or me anyway, is CW Ops, being able to get up there. And the most important thing, have fun. Have fun, have fun, have fun. If you're
Yep.
not having fun, you're doing something wrong. And as our Elmer and
Yep.
mentor, Tim, WBTKAO, would say, if you had fun, you won.
Then you won. Exactly. Yes. I got two questions
Yeah, go for
that
it.
that
Shoot 'em.
that jump immediately. So for and I love how you talked about POTA being a classroom. I always use alliteration. I say POTA is kind of like a platform. For
That's
me,
right.
I've used it to do things like VHF contesting, RIDI. Um, I use POTA as an excuse and a great way to try different bands, modes, antennas, setups, and
Right,
all
right,
that.
right.
Um, but getting out to do that first CW POTA where I'm gonna spot myself because
You are.
chances are my first POTA CW I'm just gonna be hunting. but
That's fine.
but when I spot myself, what do you recommend for power? Is this 5 watts? Do I want to really go lower,
Mhm.
or is it? And then also bands.
Right.
Because I can imagine if I get on 20 or 10, I could be getting calls from all over.
All over.
Versus, I know if I'm doing 40 or 30, I'm probably going to get a lot more invis regional propagation. So,
Right.
what are your thoughts on that first
Right.
time out?
Right. So that first time out, you're definitely going to want to be 5 watts. 5 watts is
Okay.
plenty.
All right.
And I don't know. You might be able to get out with 1 watt. You run pretty efficiently. 5 watts, and then if you're right. If you want QSOs, you're going to have to
Mhm.
get on 20. That's going to get you the very popular depending on what the bands are doing, 10,
Okay.
you might be hitting France, and then you got to get used to that French call sign coming at you, the F
Yep.
or the E. You get the Spanish call signs coming at you pretty quickly. So and then 40, believe it or not, I get more pileups on 40 than I do on 20 because,
Okay.
as you know, we're ham dense in the Northeast.
We
So
are.
I get pretty busy on 40. So I think I'm going to recommend one of the off bands. So let's go work band and let's
Hmm.
go, 5 watts. So we'll pick 30 or 17
Okay.
and go 5 watts and see how you go. And then just start there. And that's a good starting rate for your first band and your first porta.
Okay.
And you're right. And you mentioned it. You could go to the park, set everything up, and all you do is hunt for the first 10. You
Hmm.
could do that.
Yep.
But I think what your goal is, you want to be the activator. So that's my assumption.
Yeah, I can see myself doing some hunting first, and yeah, maybe I get all 10 that way. Maybe I just get a couple and get that confidence,
Right.
and then
Right.
you kind of go from there. Uh, I want to hear from you though. I'd love to hear what takeaways from your first CW QSO. Like, what was it? And you're laughing, so
I'm
hopefully
laughing.
there's a good story here.
No, it's a good story, and I forgot the call sign. I was trying to remember off while we were talking. So yeah, I following LICW's advice, I got my radio all set
Hmm.
up. I'm listening to the POTA activator, and I'm listening, and no one's calling him. I'm like, oh man, I should call him. I really should because I'm just listening to get the flow and understand. So I said, okay, I'm gonna call him. So I nervously pound out my call sign, and he responds. I'm like, oh no, he responded. So
Hmm.
I'm like, okay. And then I sent my 599, and I sent New York, and I don't even know if I sent break. And then he responded back, and he said all kinds of other stuff, which I didn't know what he said at the time. And then
Yeah.
he said dit dit, and I'm like, it's over. So I did and quickly walked away.
Okay.
And then the other thing I did too, and probably my second or third one, I learned all of our radios have a messaging function, just as just like we do for voice. For
Okay.
CW, it says the same messaging function. So you could put your call sign in there and have that as your backup. So if your hands are shaking too much or
Hmm.
you're messing up in your send, you got that as your backup. You can hit the button and it'll send your call sign
Okay.
just as a backup. And then again, you can put 599 in there in New York, and then that's your backup. So that gave me confidence to hunt more POTA stations, is having that as a backup, of knowing that I can always hit the send button when I got too nervous to send. That gets rid of
Gotcha.
that. I call it key fright. That's what it's called.
Okay. That's good to do. I primarily run the ICOM 705 and
Right.
7300, and they have features built in. I've used those memory functions. There's a built-in RIDI decoder,
Right.
and so when I do the RIDI contest, I'm not even using a computer. I'm just using, and I have the exchanges already programmed in. I'm just hitting a button on the actual touch screen,
Right.
and it's sending my call, it's sending my state or whatever's necessary for the exchange. It's real easy to do if you're hunting.
Right.
Um, Obviously, doing a lot of QRP, SSB. The recording of my CQ call
Yeah.
comes in handy to save my voice if
Oh yeah.
conditions aren't great.
Right.
If
Right.
there's times there's like, okay,
Hit the button.
you take over now. I'm just
Right.
gonna sit back and wait.
Mhm.
But no, that's true. I can go through and I can program a couple basic things like you said, call sign and maybe 599 New York or whatever it ends up being. Just in case I get in a pinch or I'm having trouble or something. So that's good. Awesome.
And you mentioned decoder. Let's talk about the CW decoders.
Okay.
So the best decoder you can have, the one between your ears, because
Yes.
there are
I bet.
ones you can. I mean, there's AI ones, there's apps, there's all kinds of things. Most of our radios have decoders built, CW decoders built into them,
Okay.
but they're not perfect. Sometimes
I
they'll get it, sometimes they don't. Um, I was using one as a backup. I still use it as a bad habit. But one of my mentors, shout out to Ed W4EMB, he said, stop using it because your brain will start depending on it. So
Okay.
I'm weaning myself to not use those decoders, or if it's coming up on my screen, I'm starting to wean myself to not use that decoder, and because your brain acts differently when it knows there's no backup. It really pays attention. So yeah, so CW coders are out there. Maybe when you're starting out, you can have it as
Mhm.
a good backup. But again, the most important, the most and the best and most efficient decoder is the one between your ears.
Yeah. And it kind of leads me to my last question that I have for you is in headphones.
Yeah.
So, do you always use headphones when you operate CW? Do you not always use them? Does it kind of depend? I doing primarily, voice and data. I'm not using them often.
Mhm.
I've kept them in my bag, in case I'm in a louder environment or if I don't want to disturb others around me.
Right.
But primarily, I'm not using them. That
Mhm.
said, I know like it's be a lot different with CW.
Yeah, a little bit.
So what's your advice and what's your style?
So so it's funny. I'm weird. Doing a POTA activation, I never
Mhm.
use them. I always have the
Okay.
speakers. I always have it loud, and unless I go to a park where I might be close proximity to other
Okay.
people, I'll throw. I have them in a bag, and I'll throw them on. So I have that so I have them as a backup in the bag. So typically during a POTA activation, I don't use them at the time. 100%. Maybe it's because I don't want to disturb the family or whatever it is. But when I'm sitting in the shack or
I
running a
see.
contest from down here, the headphones are always on, and there definitely is a difference when you're using them. I would definitely recommend getting your preference. And it doesn't matter what headphones you use. You can use a cheap pair of headphones, to be honest,
Mm.
because CW is such a low frequency that as long as they're decent, they're usable
Okay.
headphones. It doesn't matter which ones. I prefer what we have on, these closed ear ones, so that you can kind of cup your ear in and not hear the outside noise around you. But yeah, any headphones I think would be good. And you're going to have to gauge your preference.
Okay. Great. No, thank you so much. This has been really, really helpful. Viewers, I hope that you found this useful too. If you have any other comments, suggestions, if there's some other tips for kind of getting that first QSO under your belt, and practicing and learning, the contests, POTA, SOTA, other types of activities that you recommend, please leave a comment down below. It'd be helpful for me, and I know it'd be helpful for other viewers who are watching this and thinking about getting started in CW. Ron, thank you so much for joining. There'll be links down below for the 599 Signal Report podcast. Again, great podcast. It's available on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, any podcast platform, I'm sure. Thank you so much for helping me. This is a great way for me to kind of kickstart, my major goal for this new year, and hopefully, we're helping others along in the process. Thanks again, Ron, and thank you everyone for checking this out. I'm Mike, N2MAK.
I'm Ron, W2ELFs.
Dit.
It,
See what
it,
I did there?
you got
I'm
it.
all right. 7-3, everyone.
70 or 72 if you're QRP.